on this radio station. Its programs and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and FreedomSlips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, FreedomSlips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Thank you so much. Pre-recorded Nighthawk and the crowd. No, we've never had a crowd like that. We've never done this live in front of a studio audience. This is Shiny Soda with Dave and Mecky, and you're back with us on Revolution Radio, the #1 listener-supported talk radio on the net. So push the donate button and subscribe to the archives, which are free. Get yourself some great merchandise from the station's website, t-shirt, mug, or anything you like. And we're going to thank you very much also directly to you. Thank you for inviting us into your lives and for listening to Revolution Radio. We're halfway through show 677, as Mecky would say, 770 and 600. This is the Golden Age, Part 5. So if you've just caught this show kind of maybe by accident, there's 4 other shows to go back. They're all hour long, and you can find them on Rumble, Spotify, X, and YouTube. And enjoy. Oh, I forgot to do something. Hang on. Let me just type in. Oh no, that's fine. Oh, that's what I'll do. The Golden Age. And that's the hashtag for this show. You should help us out. Lift our ratings in TalkStream Live, another place you can listen to us. It's pretty neat that you can do that, you know. And what's even better is that you can listen to us directly through the website, and you can chat to us while we are on air. And I want to thank the one and only Flippy, Lavender Streams. Who else was there today? Ooh, gonna go back a ways. Batsman as well, who've been talking to us while we're on air. Thank you for contributing to our thought processes, and I hope we've educated you or made you laugh. So there's plenty of that when it comes to me needing to pronounce something that I've never seen before. I'm just going to burn through it today, and I'm not really going to care. I'm not going to stop or maybe I will. I'll stop and attempt to pronounce something 10,000 different ways until I get it right, but no, it's not going to work. So we're talking about the Golden Age, and we're up to the Sumerians, which is fantastic, one of my favorites. I think, because I can't see where I've written. Let me see if I can find 677. No, I can't. So I've mistyped the show number, I think, anyway, into the show notes. I'm still going down. Eden, Shangri-La. I don't think we covered that off. No, I don't think so. Anyway. Let me see if we can get through this today. I know Mecky wanted to add something to it, but because we've not got the time and he's away, I'm just going to go through this as is. Now, Dilmun or Telmun, I can't do that one, or that one, because it's one is in Arabic. Sumerians Nituk, and Dilmun is another one. It all means the same thing. Was an ancient Semitic speaking polity in Arabia, mentioned from the 3rd millennium BC onwards. Based on textual evidence, it was located in the Persian Gulf on a trade route between Mesopotamia and the Indus Valley civilization, close to the sea and to artesian springs. A number of scholars have suggested that Dilmun originally designated the eastern province of Saudi Arabia, notably linked with the majority Dilmunite settlements of and An-Nasi and ar-Ramad in the interior of Tarut on the coast. Dilmun encompassed Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, and the eastern portion regions of Saudi Arabia. This area is certainly what is meant by references to Dilmun among the lands conquered by King Sargon of Akkad and his descendants. The great commercial and trading connections between Mesopotamia and Dilmun were strong and profound, to the point where Dilmun was a central figure to the Sumerian creation myth. Whoever the author of this, I'll give them myth. Dilmun was described in the saga of Enki and Ninhursag as pre-existing in paradisiacal state, where predators don't kill, pain and diseases are absent, and people don't get old. Dilmun was an important trading center. At the height of its power, it controlled the Persian Gulf trading routes. According to some modern theories, the Sumerians regarded Dilmun as a sacred place, but this is never stated in any known ancient text. Dilmun was mentioned by the Mesopotamians as a trade partner, a source of copper, and a trade entrepot. The Sumerian tale of the garden paradise of Dilmun may have been an inspiration for the Garden of Eden story. Dilmun was an important trading center from the late 4th millennium to 800 BC. At the height of its power, Dilmun controlled the Persian Gulf trading routes. Dilmun was very prosperous during the first 300 years of the 2nd millennium. Dilmun's commercial power began to decline between 1000 BC and 800 BC because privacy flourished in the Persian Gulf. In 600 BC, the Neo-Babylonian Empire and the later Persian Empire ruled Dilmun. Mythology. In the early epic En-Merkar and the Lord of Aratta, the main events which center on En-Merkar's construction of the ziggurats in Uruk and Eridu are described as taking place at a time before Dilmun had yet been settled. Dilmun, sometimes described as the place where the sun rises and the land of the living, is the scene of some versions of the Sumerian creation myth and the place where the deified Sumerian hero of the flood, Utnapishtim, was taken by the gods to live forever. Thorkild Jacobson's translation of the Eridu Genesis calls it Mount Dilmun, which he locates as a faraway half mythical place. Dilmun is also described in the epic story of Enki and Ninhursag as the site at which the creation occurred. The later Babylonian Enuma Elish speaks of the creation site as the place where the mixture of salt water, personified as Tiamat, met and mingled with the fresh water of Abzu. Bahrain in Arabic means the twin waters, where the fresh water of the Arabian aquifer mingles with the salt waters of the Persian Gulf. The promise of Enki to Ninhursag, the Earth Mother, I scroll too quickly. Therefore, for Dilmun, the land of my lady's heart, I will create long waterways, rivers, and canals, whereby water will flow to quench the thirst of all beings and bring abundance to all that lives. Ninlil, the Sumerian goddess of air and south wind, had her home in Dilmun. However, it is also speculated that Gilgamesh had to pass through Mount Mashu to reach Dilmun in the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is usually identified with the whole of the parallel Lebanon and anti-Lebanon ranges, with the narrow gap between these mountains constituting the tunnel. Now, the Garden of Eden theory. In 1922, Edward Glasser proposed that the Garden of Eden was located in eastern Arabia within the Dilmun civilization. Scholar Juris Zarins also believes that the Garden of Eden was situated in Dilmun at the head of the Persian Gulf, where the Tigris and Euphrates rivers run into the sea. From his research on this area using information from many different sources, including Landsat images from space, in this theory the Bible's Gihon would correspond with the Karun in Iran, and the Pishon River would correspond to the Wadi Batin River system that once drained the now dry but once quite fertile central part of the Arabian Peninsula. And we have the source text here, so let me have a look. Copy hyperlink. And just, you know, for the people who are in the chat room, if you want to join us in the chat room ever, you go to revolution.radio and there's a chat room link there, and you can chat to us while we're on air, which is really cool. Now I want to talk about Shangri-La. Shangri-La is a fictional place described in the 1933 novel Lost Horizon by British author James Hilton. Hilton describes Shangri-La as a mystical, harmonious valley gently guided from lamasery enclosed in the western end of the Kunlun Mountains. Shangri-La has become synonymous with the earthly paradise, particularly a mythical Himalayan utopia, a permanently happy land isolated from the world. In the novel, the people who live at Shangri-La are almost immortal, living hundreds of years beyond the normal lifespan and only very slowly aging in appearance. The name also evokes the imagery of exoticism of the Orient. Exoticism, that's the word I was looking for. Exoticism of the Orient. In the ancient Tibetan scriptures, the existence of 7 such places is mentioned as Nihbehul, Kembalang. Kembalang is one of the several Bauls, hidden lands similar to Shangri-La, believed to have been created by Padmasambhava in the 9th century as idyllic, sacred places of refuge for Buddhists during times of strife. That comes from Reinhard in 1978. The etymology, the phrase Shangri-La, most probably comes from the Tibetan Shang, a district of Yutsang, north of Tashilhompo, pronounced Ri Mountain, Shang Mountain, Mountain Pass, which suggests that the area is access to or is named by Shang Mountain Pass. While the name Shangri-La is of relatively recent origin, the concept previously existed. Some scholars believe that the Shangri-La story owes a literary debt to Shambhala, mythical kingdom in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, which was sought by Eastern and Western explorers. Jewish sources describe a city named Luz, L-U-Z, in which the angel of death has no permission to enter. Its citizens have the ability to live forever. The same description is given for a location named Kushta, based on the Aramaic word for truth. In this city, the only reason for death was if a person told an untruth. Ancient sources with similar descriptions. In China, the poet Tao Yangmin of the Jin dynasty, which is 265 to 420 BCE, described a kind of Shangri-La in his work, The Tale of the Peach Blossom Spring. The story goes that there was a fisherman from Wulin who came across a beautiful peach grove, and he discovered happy and content people who lived completely cut off from the troubles in the outside world since the Qin dynasty, 221 to 207 BCE. Shambhala is a core concept in the Tibetan Buddhism that describes a realm of harmony between man and nature that is also connected with the Kala Chakra, or wheel of time. The Shambhala ideal is described in detail in the Shambhala Sutra, a historical text written by the 6th Panchen Lama, 1737 to 1738, which describes some of the Shambhala locations as being Ngari, the western prefecture of Tibet. Folklore from the Altai Mountains describes Mount Belukha as a gateway to Shambhala. The Kunlun Mountains offer another possible place for valleys like the Shangri-La, since Hilton specifically describes Kenlun Mountains as its likely location in the book. However, Hilton is not known to have visited or studied the area. Parts of the Kunlun lie within Ngari, mentioned in the Shambhala Sutra. What were the possible sources for Hilton, I wonder? In a New York Times interview in 1936, Hilton states that he used Tibetan material from the British Museum, particularly the travelogue of 2 French priests, Evariste Regis Houck and Joseph Cabet, to provide the Tibetan cultural and Buddhist spiritual inspirations for Shangri-La. Houck and Cabet travelled a round trip between Beijing and Lhasa in 1844 to it took 2 years, 1846, on a route more than 250 kilometres, or if you're American, 160 miles north of Yunnan. Their famous travelogue, first published in French in 1850, went through many editions in many languages. A popular condensed translation was published in England in 1928, at the time that Hilton would have been gathering inspiration or perhaps writing Lost Horizon. Current claimants. Today, various places claim titles such as of Southern Kham, Kham, in northwestern Yunnan province, including the tourist destinations of Lijiang and Zhongdian. In modern China, the Zhongdian County was renamed Shangri-La in Chinese. I can't pronounce it. In 2001 to attract tourists. Hilton visited the Hunza Valley in northern Pakistan, close to the Chinese border, a few years before Lost Horizon was published. Hence, it is a popularly believed inspiration for Hilton's physical description of Shangri-La. Being an isolated green valley surrounded by mountains enclosed on the western end of the Himalayas, it closely matches the description in the novel. Also, in an ironic reversal on the story due to increased exposure to ultraviolet radiation, inhabitants of the high altitude parts of the valley appear to age quickly. However, because the Hunza Valley does not have Tibetan culture and lacks Buddhist religion, it could not have been the inspiration for the cultural context of Hilton's story. Places like Sichuan and Tibet also claim the real Shangri-La was in its territory. In 2001, Tibet Autonomous Region put forward a proposal that the three regions optimize all Shangri-La tourism resources and promote them as one. After failed attempts to establish a China Shangri-La ecological tourism zone in 2002 and 2003, government representatives of Sichuan and Yunnan provinces and Tibet Autonomous Region signed a declaration of cooperation in 2004. Also in 2001, Zhongdian County in northwestern Yunnan officially renamed itself Shangri-La County. Now, recent searches and documentaries. American explorers Ted Vail and Peter Klicker visited the Muli area of southern Sichuan province in 1999 and claimed that the Moli monastery in this remote region was the model for James Hilton's Shangri-La, which they thought Hilton learned about from articles on this area in several National Geographic magazine articles in the late 1920s and early 1930s, written by Austrian-American explorer Joseph Rock. Vail completed a film based on their research, Finding Shangri-La it was named, which debuted at the Cannes Film Festival in 2007. However, Michael McRae unearthed an obscure James Hilton interview from a New York Times gossip column where he reveals his cultural inspiration for Shangri-La, and if it is any place, it is more than 250 kilometers north of Muli on the route travelled by Hooke and Gabay. Between 2000 and 2004, a series of expeditions were led by author and filmmaker Lawrence Brahm in Western China, which determined that the Shangri-La mythical location in Hilton's book Lost Horizon was based on references to northern Yunnan province from articles published by National Geographic's first resident explorer Joseph Rock. On December 2nd, 2010, OPB televised one of Martin Yang's Hidden China episodes, Life in Shangri-La, in which Yan said that Shangri-La is the actual name of a real town in the hilly and mountainous region in northwestern Yunnan province, frequented by both Han and Tibetan locals. Martin Yan visited arts and crafts shops, local farmers as they harvest crops and sampled their cuisine. Television presenter and historian Michael Wood, in the Shangri-La episode of BBC documentary series In Search of Myths and Heroes, suggests that the legendary Shangri-La is the abandoned city of Sasparang in the upper Satluj Valley, and that its two great temples were once home to the kings of Guj in modern Tibet. And I'm also going to, just for those people in the chat room, they can have a look at this wondrous reference. That brings us to Nirvana, not the band. Nirvana, Sanskrit, I can't read any of those words, literally means blown out. as in an oil lamp. The term nirvana is most commonly associated with Buddhism and represents its ultimate state of soteriological, or doctrine of salvation, says Meki, release, the liberation from repeated rebirth in samsara. In Indian religions, nirvana is synonymous with moksha and mukti. All Indian religions assert it to be a state of perfect quietude, freedom, happiness, highest happiness, as well as liberation from or ending of samsara, the repeating cycle of birth, life, and death. However, Buddhist and non-Buddhist traditions describe these terms for liberation differently. In the Buddhist context, nirvana refers to realization of non-self and emptiness, marking the end of rebirth by stilling the fires that keep the process of rebirth going. In Hindu philosophy, it is the union of, or the realization of, the identity of Atman with Brahman. Depending on the Hindu tradition, in Jainism, it is also the soteriological goal. It represents the release of a soul from a karmic bondage and samsara. The etymology. The word nirvana states Stephen Collins. Stephen, I'll start again. I'll fix that in post, which I never do, but I always say I'm going to. The word nirvana, states Stephen Collins, is from the verbal root var, means blow, in the form of past participle varna, blown, prefixed with the preverb nis, meaning out. Hence, the original meaning of the word is blown out, extinguished. Sandhi changes the sounds. The V of varna causes nis to become near, and then the R of near causes retroflexion of the following N, nisvana, nirvana. The term nirvana in the soteriological sense of blown out, extinguished state of liberation does not appear in the Vedas nor in the Upanishads. According to Collins, the Buddhists seem to have been the first to call it nirvana. However, the ideas of spiritual liberation using different terminology with the concept of soul or Brahman appears in Vedic text, in Upanishads, such as in verse 4.4.6 of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. This may have been deliberate use of words in early Buddhism, suggests Collins, and Atman and Brahman were described in Vedic text and Upanishads with the imagery of fire as something good, desirable, and liberating. So you've got to ask, what are the origins? Nirvana is a term found in the texts of all major Indian religions: Buddhism, Hinduism, Jainism, and Sikhism. It refers to the profound peace of mind that is acquired with moksha, liberation from samsara, or release from a state of suffering, and respective spiritual practice or sadhana. The idea of moksha is connected to the Vedic culture, where it conveyed a notion of amritam, or immortality, and also a notion of a timeless unborn, or the still point of the turning world of time. It was also its timeless structure, the whole underlying the spokes of the invariable but incessant wheel of time. The hope for life after death started with notions of going to the worlds of the fathers or ancestors and or the world of the gods or heaven. The earliest Vedic texts incorporate the concept of life, followed by an afterlife in heaven and hell based on cumulative virtues, merit, or vices, demerit. However, the ancient Vedic rishis challenge this idea of afterlife as simplistic because people do not live an equally moral or immoral life between generally virtuous lives, some are more virtuous, while evil too has its degrees, and either permanent heaven or permanent hell is disproportionate. There we go. The Vedic thinkers introduced the idea of an afterlife in heaven or hell in proportion to one's merit, and when this runs out, one returns and is reborn. The idea of rebirth following running out of merit appears in Buddhist texts as well. This idea appears in many ancient and medieval texts as samsara, or the endless cycle of life, death, rebirth, and re-death, such as section 631 of the Mahabharata and verse 921 of the Bhagavad Gita. I knew I'd get that eventually. The samsara, life after death, and what impacts rebirth came to be seen as dependent on karma. The liberation from samsara developed as an ultimate goal and soteriological value in Indian culture, and called by different terms such as nirvana, moksha, mukti, and kaya valya. This basic scheme underlies Hinduism, Jainism, Buddhism, where the ultimate aim is the timeless state of moksha, or, as the Buddhists first seem to have called it, nirvana. Although the term occurs in the literatures of a number of ancient Indian traditions, the concept is mostly commonly associated with Buddhism. It was later adopted by other Indian religions, but with different meanings and descriptions. Moksha, such as in the Hindu text Bhagavad Gita of the Mahabharata. Jainism, the term moksha and nirvana are often used interchangeably in Jain texts. Uttara Dhyana Sutra provides an account of Sudharma, also called Gautama, and one of the disciples of Mahavira, explaining the meaning of nirvana to Kesi, a disciple of Parshva. There's a comment here that Meki would have read out, and it says, "There is a safe place in view of all, but difficult of approach, where there is no old age, nor death, no pain, nor disease. It is what is called nirvana, or freedom from pain, or perfection, which is in view of all. It is the safe, happy, and quiet place which the great sages reach, that is the eternal place in view of all, but difficult of approach. Those sages who reach it are free from sorrows. They have put an end to the stream of existence." This was from 81.4 translated by Herman Jacobi in 1895. And I'm going to also copy that for our chat room. Do join the chat room. It's a great place. Great conversations. So, what does everybody think about this golden age? About Shangri-La, Nirvana, about the El Dorado that we've read about in the past, about the utopian lands and this golden age that everyone refers back to. Just restating this, that most, if not all cultures, have myths and legends of ages gone past. These ages are usually organized into a systematic descent into chaos from an initial golden age. And we spoke about Hesiod's 5 ages. This was the Greek poet Hesiod, between 750 and 650 BC, outlined 5 ages in his poem Work and Days, lines 109 to 201. His list is the Golden Age. The Golden Age is the only age that falls within the rules of Cronus, created by the immortals who live on Olympus. These humans were said to live among the gods and freely mingled with them. Peace and harmony prevailed during this age. Humans did not have to work to feed themselves, for the earth provided food in abundance. They lived to very old age, but with a youthful appearance, and eventually died peacefully. Their spirits live on as guardians. Plato and Cratylus, 397e, I'm not sure what that means, recounts the golden race of men who came first. He clarifies that the Hesiod did not mean men literally made of gold, but good and noble. He describes these men as daemons upon the earth, since daemons is derived from daemons meaning knowing or wise. They are beneficent, preventing ills and guardians of morals. Beneficent, that's what I meant. Now, the Silver Age, moving away from the Golden Age, where everything was fantastic. The Silver Age and every age that follows falls within the rules of Cronus' successor and son Zeus. Men in the Silver Age lived for 100 years under the dominion of their mothers. They lived only a short time as grown adults and spent that time in strife with one another. During this age, men refused to worship the gods, and Zeus destroyed them for their impiety. After death, humans of this age became blessed spirits of the underworld. The Bronze Age. This age is also sometimes known as the Copper Age or Brazen Age. Men of the Bronze Age were hardened and tough, as war was their purpose and passion. Zeus created these humans out of the ash tree. Their armor was forged of bronze, as were their homes and tools. The men of this age were undone by their own violent ways and left no named spirits. Instead, they dwell in the dark house of Hades. This age came to an end with the flood of Deucalion. The Heroic Age. The Heroic Age is the one age that does not correspond with any metal. It is also the only age that improves upon the age it follows. It was the heroes of this age who fought at Thebes and Troy. This race of humans died and went to Elysium. Then we have the Iron Age. Hesiod finds himself in the Iron Age. During this age, humans live an existence of toil and misery. Children dishonor their parents, brother fights with brother, and the social contract between guest and host, Xenia, is forgotten. During this age, might makes right, and bad men use lies to be thought good. At the height of this age, humans no longer feel shame or indignation at wrongdoing. Babies will be born with grey hair, and the gods will have completely forsaken humanity. There will be no help against evil. It's really well written. I love that. Let me see what else was there. Sorry, I'm just looking through this. According to the Aztecs, there were 5 suns, S-U-N-S. So in creation myths, the terms 5 suns refers to the belief of certain Nahua cultures and Aztec peoples that the world has gone through 5 distinct cycles of creation and destruction, with the current era being the 5th. It is primarily derived from a combination of myths, cosmologies, and eschatological beliefs that were originally held by pre-Columbian peoples in the Mesoamerican region, including central Mexico, and it is part of a larger mythology of 5th world or 5th sun beliefs. The late post-classic Aztecs created and developed their own version of the 5 suns myths, which incorporated the transformed elements from previous Mesoamerican creation myths, while also introducing new ideas that were specific to their culture. In the Aztec and Nahua creation myths, it was believed that the universe had gone through 4 iterations before the current one, and each of these prior worlds had been destroyed by gods due to the behavior of its inhabitants. Yeah, that's got to be the theme, that despite our distances from each other, with apparently, according to historians, no connectivity between all of us at one point or another, where each of these same beliefs were born. Meki and I don't believe that. We believe that there was only one language a long, long time ago, and that we were separated, like the Hopi believe is true, that we were separated so we couldn't communicate with each other because we've been so bad, maybe. And only when we all speak the one language again do we then unite as one and become one again. So head to the north, south, east and west. It's a fabulous, fabulous tale. And that we learnt that through the flood myths show cycles, when we went down those paths and found there were flood myths from every continent, from every people. There was even a time before the moon, and we read stories out about the times before the moon. Now, one of them was from the Bible. There was a reference to a people that was so old they were before the moon. Australian Aboriginals have one where if there was no moon, and then there was. That sounds oversimplistic, but their story is consistent with that. The shortened version of it. Now, there isn't anything that I can. The second, I'll talk about the suns. Okay, so that should take us to the break. The first sun. It was 4 gods who eventually created all the other gods and the world we know today. But before they could create, they had to destroy. For every time they attempted to create something, it would fall into the water beneath them and be eaten by it's a creature name I can't pronounce, Sipactli. That'll do. Yes. The giant earth crocodile who swam through the water with mouths at every one of her joints. From the 4 descended the first people who were giants. Isn't that the same story? Giants were always first in the Bible as giants. They created other gods, the most important of whom were the water gods, the god of rain and fertility, the goddess of lakes and rivers and oceans, and also the goddess of beauty. To give light, they needed a god to become the sun, and I can't pronounce it. The black put name here was chosen, but either because he had lost a leg or because he was god of the night, he only managed to become half a sun. The world continued on this way for some time, but a sibling rivalry grew between him and his brother, the mighty sun, who Quetzalcoatl eventually decided to knock from the sky with a stone club. With no sun, the world was totally in darkness, and in his anger, Tezcatlipoca commanded his jaguars to eat all the people. Wow, so when there was no sun at all, everybody died. The second sun. The gods created humans who were of normal stature, with Quetzalcoatl serving as the sun for a new civilization as an attempt to bring balance to the world, but their attempts ultimately failed as humans began to drift away from the beliefs and teachings of the gods and instead embraced greed and corruption. Wow, politicians are that old? They're from the second sun issue. As a consequence, Tezcatlipoca showcased his dominance and strength as a god of magic and justice by transforming the human-like people into monkeys. Quetzalcoatl, who had held the flawed people in great regard, was greatly distressed and sent away the monkeys with a powerful hurricane. After they were banished, Quetzalcoatl stepped down from his role as the sun and crafted a new, more perfect race of humans. The third sun. Tlaloc was crowned the new sun, but Tezcatlipoca, the mischievous god, tricked and deceived him, snatching away the love of his life. I'm not even going to bother. The deity of beauty, flowers and corn. Tlaloc had become so consumed by his own grief and sorrow that he was no longer able to fulfill his duties as the sun. Therefore, a great drought befell the people of the world. People desperately prayed for rain and begged for mercy, but their pleas fell on deaf ears. In a fit of rage, or if you like spoonerisms, a writ of phage, Tlaloc unleashed a rain of fire upon the earth, completely destroying it and leaving nothing but ashes in its wake. Blah, blah, blah. Cataclysmic events. The gods then worked together to create a new earth allowing life to be reborn from the seemingly lifeless, barren land. The fourth son, the next son, and also Tlaloc's new wife. She was very loving and towards the people, but he was not. Both the people and his wife felt his judgment when he told the water goddess that she was not truly loving and only faked kindness out of selfishness to gain the people's praise. She was so crushed by these words that she cried blood for the next 52 years, causing a horrific flood that drowned everyone on Earth. Humans became fish in order to survive. This looks like the Great Flood. And then after that, the fifth son, Quetzalcoatl, back again, would not accept the destruction of his people and went to the underworld, where he stole their bones from the god there. He dipped these bones in his own blood to resurrect his people, who reopened their eyes to a sky illuminated by the current sun. The stars of the south became jealous of their brighter, more important brother. Their leader, goddess of the moon, led them in an assault on the sun, and every night they come close to victory when they shine throughout the sky, but are beaten back by the mighty sun who rules the daytime sky. To aid this all-important god in his continuing war, the Aztecs offer him the nourishment of human sacrifices. They also offer human sacrifices to Tezcatlipoca in fear of his judgment, the mischievous one, offer their own blood to Quetzalcoatl, who opposes fatal sacrifices, in thanks of his blood sacrifice for them, to give offerings to many other gods for many purposes. Should these sacrifices cease, or should mankind fail to please the gods for any reason, this fifth son will go black. The world will be shattered by a catastrophic earthquake, and the Zitzimil will slay the whoever that was and all of humanity. Wow. I think these stories have a small basis of truth. I'm not saying that we should once again commence human sacrifices. I think it's really bad. If you believe in something so strongly and only every once in a while does it correlate to something good happening, that I can see how that would work for ancient cultures who didn't have a greater vision of how everything is held together. I suppose the flat earthers have, I don't know, they've still got time before they start doing rituals, human sacrifices, to ensure that the world doesn't split in half and float apart from each other as a single flat, like disc record kind of vision. Their combined IQ is doubtful in solving any problems that they should ever come across as a society. It really bugs me that they continue to perpetuate the idea that the show's going to end with me ranting about flat Earth. If you want to disprove the flat Earth, you look south and you look north, and you'll see when you look south, the star field rotates clockwise. You look north, it's counterclockwise. Therefore, there's two separate points of rotation. That doesn't make sense in a flat Earth. You should only ever see one, and so the whole thing is gone. It's just blown out of the water immediately by something you can observe on your own in your own backyard, as long as there's no cloud cover. There you go. Anyway, I'd like to thank everyone for being with me alone and closing out, hopefully, the Golden Age in part 5. Do catch up the previous 4. You'll find those on Rumble, Spotify, X, and YouTube. Catch me again 7 a.m. Tuesday and Thursday for Plato's Cave. I'm not sure what's coming up. I'm sure it's fantastic. Always great shows here. And do like, subscribe, share, and comment on any of our videos. or catch us live, comes to the station revolution.radio. And in the meantime, we're going to ask that everyone be safe.